what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of the What Now Show. I am your host, Suryansh Basumalik, and it's been a while, but we are back, and we are back with one of the most hot up-and-coming fighters in the UFC right now. He is a 13-5 middleweight who will be fighting next week in the Adesanya versus Vettori 2 card on UFC 263 against Darren Stewart. Make sure you catch him on his fight. And with that, I welcome you, Eryk Anders. Eryk, what's up, man? It's a pleasure having you on. How are you?
What's going on, brother?
All good, man. All good. All right, so let's get started with the main thing any fighter has when they're coming up on a fight: training. How's since your last fight? How's training been for you? How do you feel going into this fight?
Man, I feel just as good as I did going into the last one. Been out here fight ready for this will be my second camp out here, and man, things couldn't be going better.
Right. And you feel the same way going into the last fight. Of course, the last fight didn't go your way. You fought against Christoph Jotko. Now, I'm sure there were a lot of holes from your game that you did pick up on. You found a few mistakes that you would want to rectify. So, now that you're coming up on this fight, what were the few key errors that you have rectified since the last fight that you think would help you going into the next one?
Well, I think from that fight to the last fight, because I fought Darren in March, was finishing takedowns and being more efficient with the clinch, not just holding them up against the cage like I did Jocko. I think my mindset and for Jocko was a little bit different. Was wrong versus my mindset for these two Darren fights. So if your mind ain't right going into it, or your mentality is wrong, then you're putting yourself at a big disadvantage going before the fight even starts.
Right. Interesting. Now, can you walk us through, the whole illegal knee that took place in your last fight against most recent fight against Darren? Of course, you want to look forward to getting the W on this one. Well, could you explain to us and the viewers what you were thinking when this knee happened? Could you break down, like, I'm sure you remember and you've seen the footage on what's happened with the knee. Could you explain your thought process throughout it? Could you explain what happened, your communication with the referees, your coaches, and the doctors throughout this whole process? Because with all the recent events surrounding around illegal blows, whether it be eye pokes or groin kicks, or even another prominent example was the Aljamain Sterling fight. So could you highlight for the viewers what you thought about this illegal knee, and once again walk us through the process?
Yeah, there was no thought process. Um, Man, sometimes when you get on a roll like that, you're kind of just flowing. You're kind of just reacting, and I try to take the thinking out of it, because if you think, you're like a split second behind. So I just try to react and flow and drill things so much that when I get into a fight, it's just autopilot and second nature. In in this particular case, I thought that he was on the way up. You know, so I just try to, when you get a guy hurt like that, you think the next strike is the last one that's going to end the fight. So,
Mhm.
um, like I said, I just thought that he was on the way up, and yeah, they made a critical error.
Interesting. And I'm sure you want to get back this fight, and you were doing well, through the early part of the round, and you didn't get enough time to set up and actually show your skills out to the rest of the two rounds. But uh, from the little bit that you could make from Darren, what have you learned about Darren as a fighter that you've noted throughout this whole process and you worked on with your training camp?
And you're gonna have to shoot him to get him out of there. You're gonna have to kill him. He's a pretty durable guy. I didn't realize how durable he was. I don't know what the strike differential was, but I hit him a lot, and with a lot of power shots, knees. This left hand, puts a lot of people out. And I did drop him, but he wasn't ever like out. So, I'm sure we're fighting at 205, so I'm sure he'll be even more durable. But, the mission is still the same.
Right. And speaking of your training camp, you've been working a lot with a renowned coach, Eryk, Captain Eryk Albarracin. He's been known for his very instrumental work with Mr. Triple C, with the Eraser, who's also in your division. Having had a chance to work with Eryk, and I'm sure you've had a chance to work with Triple C and the Eraser himself, and of course with multiple other fighters. Um, and having transitioned to this camp, uh, how do you feel about Eryk as a coach? We see his animatedness on social media. We see how he behaves with Henry throughout. He's a bit of a character back and who goes into these back and forths quite a bit on social media, but I'm sure there's a little bit more to him than just that in the training camp when you meet him on a day-to-day basis. So what do you make of Eryk on that way when he's off the camera?
Dude, he's a good coach. He's a great coach. He's a world champion wrestler himself, or at least competed on that stage. Almost qualified for the Olympics. He's been in the coaching game for a long time. So the guy that you see on TV is not the guy in the training room, But rest assured, whenever somebody pulls out a camera, he doesn't skip a beat. He gets into character. But man, he really is. And I thought the same thing, that he was weirdo. Didn't necessarily want him to like be around, but I didn't really know him, just from what I see on TV, I just kind of thought that he was a distraction. But man, he really is a pretty good coach. His resume speaks for himself. He coaches the Pitbull brothers. He coaches, he's just Hudo's corner. Um, so he really is knowledgeable. But he also likes to stir the pot a little bit. So, yeah, he's a good person. He takes his time, wrestles with kids, the kids who come to the gym, and yeah, he's just a great dude.
Yeah, he's always ready to lift the spirits. And I was looking through my Instagram stories the other day, and I came across yours with his animated announcements for the fighters in the gym. It was kind of fun to watch him as he introduced the zombie. In fact, and yeah, from winning his Coach of the Year awards to how he's walking in blinged out from the fights. I'm sure there's a lot more to him than meets the eye. And let's talk a little bit more about how you moved into MMA, right? So initially you were a football player, and you were trying to go into that direction, but you've transitioned into mixed martial arts now. So could you explain to the viewers how you decided to transition from one sport to another, and the principles behind each sport, whether of football and of MMA, are very different, because there's a lot of different types of strategies involved in football as compared to mixed martial arts. So when you were adapting from one field to another, how was that whole process and the decision making process, in fact?
Well, a lot of people ask me why I quit football to do MMA, and it's not that I quit football; it's football quit me. After you reach a certain level, and essentially you're not big enough, strong enough, good enough, whatever the case may be. I just found myself being really bitter. Because my whole life, I had saw myself being a professional athlete, professional football player, and making millions of dollars. And just found myself being like upset and frustrated all the time. So I wanted to blow off some steam, walk into a gym, got beat up, and fell in love with the sport right then and there. And it's not that, my first fight was in the UFC, man. I had like 24 amateur fights and 8 pro fights before I made it to the UFC. So there was a pretty long period of time where, I was working, hustling, and, doing the 9 to 5 and training in between jobs. So, it was a long road. I don't think I would change anything About it. The only thing I would change is I would change. I would have never went to my first coach, um, just because pretty much wasted the first 2 years of my career. Didn't learn
Mhm.
much. But it is what it is, and here we are now.
Interesting. And it's lovely to hear that insight because what people have mostly caught your eye recently, ever since, there's been a lot more, shine on your name since the Vinicius fight. And, there's been a lot more traction coming in since then. But people don't realize how long you've been in the sport for. From 2012, you've been around the game, and, you've been fighting your way through the ranks for a long, long time, and you fought the likes of some of the greatest people we've seen, and you've given them given them quite the run for their money, whether it's Lyoto Machida, Thiago Santos, Elias Theodorou. No, even though those fights in particular weren't losses, were losses, you still put up quite the performance. And what people haven't realized is that despite all of these losses, there is still a lot to be known about Eric Anders. That, again, like I said, more than meets the eye. So coming into this fight, give us your prediction as to how this goes. You're a seasoned vet. You've already assessed Darren. You've been with him for a short amount of time. You've trained for this fight as well. So can you give us your insight into how this fight goes out, considering all the different facets of information that you've been exposed to?
Man, I think that we both had the same amount of fights in the UFC, but I think my strength of schedule is way harder than his. I think I'm a smarter fighter, more well-rounded fighter. I see myself going out there and getting my hand raised, and I can do it all three ways: knockout, submission, or win a decision. So, um, I'm the path of least resistance kind of guy. So whatever he takes, I'll take. Whatever he gives, I'll take.
It was very interesting because despite the little bit we saw between the two of you, the odds makers at this point of time see Darren is the favorite at this point of time. Do you think that's a little bit of disrespect coming towards you from what we've seen so far, or do you think that you're not really think into that too much?
Man, I really don't think it matters much, but man, I checked. I was the favorite. You met
Right,
the first time we fought, he was like minus 150 or 140 or 145, somewhere in that range.
right.
So last I checked, I was plus 150 or minus 150. So I don't know if the odds have like shifted like that, but it is what it is. I prefer to be the underdog so that uh, I can bet and win some money.
That is interesting. So going into your fights, do you often bet on yourself, put money on yourself as you go into some of these fights?
Only when I'm the underdog, just because if I'm the favorite, is like no point. You risk $100 to win 12, so it sucks. When I'm the underdog, you can actually make a little bit of money. So yeah.
Right. That is
While,
fair.
while, while, while we're on the subject, I apologize to everybody for who bet on me last time. You thought you were going to cash in. I know you tasted that money, and then poof. At least you didn't lose your money, so it's all good.
But I'm sure you're gonna bring that money back on this fight because being the underdog right now, you still have the chance to win them their money back. And best of luck to you for it. And
What are the odds right now?
I haven't checked it recently, but as of last night, I don't quite remember what the number was, but I remember reading favorite next to Darren's name and underdog next to yours.
All right.
Right. I'll get a check on it and let you know by the end of this. And
Okay.
when we go in, and talk to me a little bit more about your training partners, right? You've had some very interesting incidents come up with some of your training partners, especially Paulo Costa. He had a fight coming up with I believe it was Jared Cannonier, and that fell out. And apparently, in his words, it never came into fruition in the first place. he hadn't signed the fight, and he's been complaining about fight to pay as well. So, can you shed a bit of light about the situation if you are aware of anything from the Costa side of things? And can you shed a little bit of light, if possible, about how the whole payment system works in the UFC?
Yeah, I don't even know Paulo Costa. I've never trained with him. He does do camps up here, but him and I have never been in the same room together
Hmm.
in a training environment. Yeah, the fighter pay, you make what you make, and then you essentially double your money if you win. Um, so you get show money and you get win money. And I don't really quite like it like that,
Hmm.
but I show up and fight every time. So I feel like, and then sometimes these people are robbed by the judges. The judges are incompetent. So, they always say don't finish. I mean, don't let the fight go to the judges. But, some of these dudes, they're really difficult to knock out and finish, man. They're fighters too. They train too. So, that's really an unrealistic um, part of the sport to go out there and finish everybody. So, um, yeah, I think that, I should get all my money.
Right,
Especially like I said, a fighter like me, I show up every time.
right.
So and I have been robbed by the judges before. So
That is
um
understandable, and I mean, you have all your right to, complain about this. And can you speak to a little bit more about this whole judging scenario where people are afraid to go to the judges and try to, and possibly when they try not to let go to the judges, they, go crazy for a finish and may make a mistake and get knocked out in the process. So when it comes to these positions with judges, a very interesting take that has been coming up recently, that has taken quite a bit of traction, is fighter control judging, which is essentially the system by which uh, fighters would be coming in, or ex-fighters who are known as, trustable figures in the field, who know how to score these contests a bit better because they have a greater understanding of the art, and being in the octagon itself. So, do you think that is a better way of going about it than the current judging system we have? Because right now, uh, because the current system is, the 10-9, 10-8 system, which was adopted from boxing, but with consideration of how different it is in MMA, and the whole different dynamic, how do you think it should play out?
yeah, I mean there should be some like continuing education classes that the judges have to go to. I think MMA needs its own commission, its own judges, and its own referees. I think that it's a totally different sport from boxing, from wrestling, from karate, from whatever. So you go to some of these states and you use their athletic commission and their judges and stuff, and it's a boxing commission. They don't know anything about grappling, so they don't respect it. You know, um, and like the Laira Latifi and Tanner Bozer fight last night, for
Mhm.
example.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Somebody scored the first round. Two of the judges actually scored the fight 10-9 for Latifi,
yeah. Oh,
and he landed one significant strike in the whole first round. So how is that?
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that was a weird fight. And
I don't think that he landed any takedowns in the first round either. So how did he win?
speaking of that card, there was one barn burner of a fight between Ponzinibbio and Baeza coming up on the main that came up on the main card. What did you think of that fight?
Man, Santiago, I can't pronounce his last name.
Ponzinibbio.
Ponzinibbio,
Yeah,
Santiago Ponzinibbio,
you got it.
really dug deep. You know, you could tell that he was ready to go out on a shield, and he wasn't going to let that one slip away from him. So, uh, yeah, super happy for that guy. He's been through some adversity, coming off a knockout, coming off a 2-year layoff before that. The doctors told him he would never fight again, and then to go in there and beat a young up and comer uh, and will himself to victory. Man, you can see it in his face and his face, just his demeanor that he wasn't going to take no for an answer.
Right. And what did you think about the fight that came shortly after that, which was the main event between Jorginho Rosenstruik and I believe it was I can't pronounce his name either, but what did you think of the main event?
Rosenstruck and Gusto Sakai.
Sakai, yeah.
Man, it's hard to win a fight, especially a heavyweight fight on your back foot. Sakai was backing up the whole time and trying to circle up the cage. I don't know if he was, trying to conserve energy because it's a 5-round fight or whatever. But, what difference does it make if it's a 5-round fight if you get knocked out in the first round? Jorginho is Mr. Buzzer Beater himself. That's like the second time he's knocked somebody out in the last second of a fight or in the last second of a round or a fight. So, um, yeah, I thought Augusto Sakai would be more aggressive, but maybe he's just too green to be fighting a guy like Rosenstruck just yet.
Right. And moving on, let's talk about your fight card that's coming up. We've got your prediction that you're getting your hand raised in any way, shape, or form against Darren Stewart. But what do you make of the main event of your card? It's a fight in your division, and I'm sure you want to be being in that position in one of those two seats at some point or another in your career. So, what do you make of this fight between Israel Adesanya and Marvin Vittori coming up next week?
I got Adesanya. I think he does a good job of. They're like opposites. He's like calm, cool, and collected, and Vittoria is super animated and super emotional. I think the emotions can wear you down over the course of 5 rounds. That's just me. I don't know about Marvin. So I think that, I think that Adesanya is one of the fastest evolving guys in the sport. If you beat him, you got to beat him the first time because he's going to make the necessary adjustments. And, like we saw with I guess, yeah, like Robert Whittaker, you know, he he just makes the adjustments and he finishes guys.
Right, interesting take. And as we progress on with your set of with this fight, I'm sure that you have some form of a plan, some sort of your dream, your chart as to how you're going to make your way up the division. So, assuming that you do, I'm not asking you to look ahead or look through Darren, but assuming that you do get this win in whatever fashion you may want to make you look the best version of yourself, how do you want to be active in the division and move your way up the ranks, because you weren't really able to be active last year or too much the year before, but you've already had one fight earlier this year, and you're getting into another fight next week. So how do you want to stay active in the near future?
I think one more fight this year would be good. Probably in that November, early November, late October time frame. I want to take the rest of the summer off to, spend time with the family, the wife and kids. I've been gone, pretty much this whole year. So, I think it's imperative to spend some time at home. So, uh, I think October and November time frame will be good.
Right. And can you give me your opinion on a fight in your career? And it's a question I've asked quite often to some of the guests that have been here. Um, that has been probably one of the more difficult or one of the most adverse situations you've been in a fight that you've had to overcome, whether it's been before the fight or during the fight. I'm sure there have been some situations where you've really been in a stickler where it just came down to your sheer will that would guide you on ahead. Could you recall any one moment or any one fight or any one event leading up to a fight that was very significant in your performance in the cage?
Um, nah, man, I think I do a really good job of clearing my head and not letting what doesn't concern fighting affect me. Um, But I guess I would be lying if I said that, uh, the loss of my teammate Walt Harris's daughter didn't affect not
Right.
only me but everybody in the gym, everybody associated with the family, and you know, tragedies like that. You know, they do, man. They weigh on you a little bit. So I guess the Jocko fight, if there was one.
Right. And as for in-fight situations where you've earned yourself a victory, whether it's convincingly or in a close manner, um, what has been an actual situation where you've really questioned yourself when comparing your style to his while in the cage? Is there any particular opponent that you can credit your performance to being that much greater because of your will and grit during the fight, because of something he did?
You talking about like willing myself to back into a fight and
Yeah,
win?
yeah. So, like, let's say you've been in a hard position in a fight. Which fight was this, and how did you get back through it?
Um, I don't know. Pretty much the first round of every fight that I've ever fought. Uh, I don't know what it is. I just seem to be a slow starter, and the fight really doesn't start until I get punched in the face, which is weird to say. But if you just go back and watch my fights, I'm kind of flat until the fight starts. Until until really after the first round, then I don't know if it's a warm up thing or what, but it is what it is. It's like I said, probably the first round of every fight I've ever been in.
You're a bit of a late hunter then, kind of like a Donald Cerrone, if I may. Smelling blood later in the fight, and coming up and taking them out later on. And when and speaking of comparisons to some of these fighters, when you think about how you got into MMA, who are the few fighters that you do look up to, that you looked at their styles and thought, I want to be like that guy, or I like the way this guy does it? Who are those few fighters, whether it's in your division or outside of your division, that you looked up to or look up to?
Um, Man, even when I was a kid, I never had like role models or looked up to anybody and be like, man, I want to be like that guy. But I did appreciate people's styles. And Frankie Edgar has always been one of my favorite fighters of all time. Just the way that guy can endure pain, the way he can push the pace, the way he can mix it up, boxing, wrestling, kickboxing, he can do it all. He's a little bit older now, but when I was coming up, he was a man, and he was smaller than everybody. He just I don't know, he just kind of had that no quit, never give up
Mhm.
mentality, and that's something I've always appreciated about Frankie Edgar.
Right. That is true. That is true, and I completely understand that. And moving on, coming over to the last part of the show. First off, thank you very much for joining in. And before we end for today, there's something we do with all of the guests that we have on. Is there anything else that you would like to add on? Anything else you would like to say? A final message for the Eryk Anders fans out there, for maybe the kids or the family back home. You've been out for a long, long time. If there's anything else you want to say right now, the floor is yours. All you.
Hey, just be able to tune in next week. It's on ESPN, so you only got to pay for it. Fight of the night candidate, uh, right there. So he likes to throw hands. I like to throw hands, and I think we need the middle and do just that. So tune in.
I smell 60 G's coming right up for Mr. Eryk Anders. Thank you very much for joining in. Thank you to the viewers for watching. Make sure to tune in for his fight next weekend. The UFC 263, Adesanya versus Vittori 2. Make sure you tune in once again. Once again, thank you so much, Eryk, for joining in. I look forward to having you on sometime soon. Maybe even after you get the W tomorrow, get the W next weekend. And yeah, it's been a fun chat, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you all for watching. That's what that was.